Coming up, we will talk with LuAn Mitchell-Halter, author of PaperDoll, and find out how she was able to break down image barriers and succeed. That's coming up.
In her new book, PaperDoll, LuAn Mitchell-Halter gives details on how she was able to redefine herself and break down barriers. She joins us now this morning. Good to see you, LuAn. Thanks for being with us. How are you this morning?
Oh, I'm great, thanks.
Well, I guess it's an understatement to say you've been through a lot in your life. What was your lowest point, do you think?
Oh, that's an excellent question. You know, it's so interesting to me because I've learned to develop a technique to view what would be perceivably one's lowest point as a seed for good. But my lowest point that I have had to date was being with a man that I love, holding his hand and his breath stopping, and him making his transition into another world, and me facing the fact that he had no life insurance, and I was going to have to go home and tell 3 little children that their daddy died, and figure out a way to not only pay the mortgage, but continue to run a company or sell it, which was far from in a stable position.
Did you find inspiration through his death?
I did find inspiration through his death, Catherine. I closed my eyes in that moment and I kissed the cheek of the shell of the man that I loved, and I truly was transported somewhere, and it was a kaleidoscope of color, and a big monarch butterfly landed on my shoulder. I felt like I was there for hours, but it was a matter of seconds. And I felt a rush of peace. And when I came back to this world, I looked around and I saw it differently through new eyes. And I felt motivated to go and do good works in it.
So how did you feel differently? What did you do from there?
Well, from there, I had to go home, tell 3 little babies that their daddy had died. And I talked to them in a way that when all of us scooped ourselves back up from turning into Jell-O, we had never spoken before. And they said, "Mommy, what would he have us do?" And I said, "I have a little idea. I think we have to grow that company. I think we have to find it." My 10-year-old son said, "Mom, can we pay the mortgage?" And I said, "Wow, you know what, we're going to do more than that. We're going to do something together as a family." And I went like a mother duckling into my, my world with 3 little ducklings behind me. And we stood tall and maybe a little bit of a lightning rod approach, and we said, no matter what the storm, we're going to come through this. There were a lot of people that took up arms against our mission, but we said, no, we can do this thing, and we stuck together. So that was a big part of it.
The company we're talking about, Mitchell's Gourmet Foods. In fact, a lot of people doubted you. They thought you were just the lonely widow who wasn't going to stand up, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, even at my husband's funeral, I had to prepare for a funeral. I didn't really have time to go into mourning because the vultures started circling. And about that, oh, the little widow lady's just going to sell out. Well, it wasn't at a position yet to be stable enough to do that. So I needed to grow it, and I needed to make big decisions. And we were postured to launch an IPO at that point. And we had been a private company, which was bankrupt, which we were in the midst of doing a turnaround on. So even at the funeral, there were people who were, you know, angling really to be brokers, poking me in the back, saying, "A little girl like you can't be running a big meat packing company. You got to be kidding. You know, have you looked in the mirror lately? You know, we judge by appearances." And I said, "You know what? Watch me."
And they
watch
did,
me.
right?
Oh, they watch me.
LuAn, we're out of time, but I wanted to ask you quickly, what simple suggestions would you give to folks who want to turn it around?
Oh gosh, stick to your guns. When you feel passionate about doing something really wonderful in this life, and it's a good work, well, you got to stick to your guns. And other people might even be well-meaning, but you have to come to the place of knowing that you're called to do that. No one else could do it, just you.
All right.
So, and read good books.
LuAn Mitchell-Halter, thank you so much for being with us this morning. The book is called PaperDoll. I highly suggest you take a look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. All the very best.
You're watching the station that cares for you.